Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk, coming at you on a Friday. Happy Friday to each and every one of you. We have made it to the end of the week. And as your reward, you've got 2.5 hours or so, give or take, of 580 Sports Talk coming your way this afternoon on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9. and online at 580WIBW.com. We are also streaming live on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on our Facebook page, WIBW News. I'm Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski is across the glass. Spencer Dupuis will be in a bit. It'll be a revolving door cast of characters over, again, the next 2.5 hours or so. Why the uncertainty? We've got our regular season finale of the 580 Preps High School Basketball Game of the Week tonight coming your way as Shawnee Heights and Seaman lock up at the Birdcage in Tecumseh. An outstanding pair of games on deck for the regular season finale on the 580 Preps Game of the Week. Boys game's the top 10 matchup. Girls game, you've got the unbeaten, defending champion, number one ranked team in Class 5A on a 25-game winning streak, playing the last team to beat them all the way back last year. So lots of stuff on the line. It's a great rivalry. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight out at Shawnee Heights. We hope that you will join us. Go to the game. Like, you should go. Bring your radio. Like, you should go out and see this one if you're a casual observer. But if you're unable to make it out tonight, we've got you covered. Myself and the coach Larry Latimer on the call from Tecumseh. Pregame coverage starting at around 5:30. Hence the 2.5 hours-ish of 580 Sports Talk today. Before we get there, lots to talk about. A football-heavy edition of 580 Sports Talk today. Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider, is going to join us at the bottom of this hour. We got a lot to talk about as it pertains to the Chiefs because the two biggest questions of the Chiefs offseason were answered yesterday within hours of each other. Is Travis Kelce coming back? Yep. What about Trey Smith? Franchise tagged. So with those questions answered, now what? What's the next move for the Chiefs? What's next on the priority list? What is the next thing that Brett Veach is going to try to accomplish to fortify the 53-man roster for the three-time defending AFC champions? Bill Barnwell of ESPN has an idea. It's one that was floated on the show earlier this week and sort of roundly mocked, but friend of the show, Matt Verneram, thinks it's not such a bad idea after all. We will talk about which free agent wide receiver Bill Barnwell says the Chiefs should target this offseason. That's coming up a little bit later on. Also, the rest of the AFC West this year. I think all three teams are in really interesting places, with the Chargers and the Broncos looking to make the next step from fringe wildcard team to real contender. And I think it's possible to varying degrees for both of those teams. And then you have the Raiders, who are all over the headlines and I think made the best head coach hire of the cycle in Pete Carroll. And Tom Brady's trying to bring in a quarterback. The Matt Stafford thing, in case you haven't been paying attention today, that's not happening. Got a new deal from the Rams today. So he is going to stay in Los Angeles. But fascinating off seasons ahead, I think, for all three teams.
Yeah, I'm very excited to break this down. I think the Matt Stafford thing would have been really interesting in Las Vegas. Who was he throwing to? Like
Brock Bowers.
Jacoby Myers is a fine player. Brock Bowers is already one of the three best tight ends in football. I think Bowers is a stud.
175 targets for Brock Bowers.
That might be it, which is maybe not the best idea for a quarterback who isn't huge on throwing to tight ends.
I just want to know how it was that at this stage of his career, at which Matt Stafford is the most in demand that he has been since he was the number one pick in the draft.
Why was Zach Taylor given a head coaching job after being a QB coach? Why has pretty much every offensive coordinator from the McVay tree been hired away as a head coach or as at least a play calling OC for 8 years? He's he can't be the best coach in football because Andy Reid has won 3 Super Bowls since 2019. So no one can go above him right now. I think in the non-Andy Reid category, Sean McVay is the best coach in football. And to be honest with you, I think there is a tier 1 of coaches. I don't know that there is like anyone on the second tier behind them right now. Like, I think tier 1 is Reid and McVay. I think tier 2 is like waiting for Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, and
Sean McDermott
to break through. And like, well, Shanahan's been maybe Shanahan's on that tier because he's won a ton of games. And last year they would have won more if not for a rash of injuries. Maybe Shanahan's on that second tier, but I think McVay and Reid are so far beyond anyone.
Put a pin in this. We're going to do this later in the offseason. We're going to do our head coaching tiers. You know how much we like to tier things on the program.
I think there are, yes, we should, because I think there are actually a lot of very good coaches right now. It's kind of a coach-dominated league, which has led to some consternation among old head players like Tom Brady. Like, I used to have freedom to do whatever I want. Yeah, Tom, you're the best ever. That's not a complaint for now, but there are a lot of good head coaches out there. I think the fact that Matt Stafford ended up with Sean McVay, probably the best thing that ever could have happened to him.
Yes.
Certainly, in fact, because
he won a ring.
Super Bowl. Yeah.
And now they're talking about putting him in the Hall of Fame, which is ludicrous.
Yeah, that's dumb. It's very, 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 very dumb. I wonder what Stafford would have looked like with Ben Johnson, to be honest with you, which is why I think Ben Johnson in Chicago is actually fascinating. I think Caleb Williams will still be very good, but I think he's more Stafford than Goff. Goff was perfect. Goff just played point guard. Goff was just facilitating. He was John Stockton out there for on-court purposes anyway. I don't know what like kind of wild horse Caleb Williams is going to be with Ben Johnson. I'm fascinated by that. I know I'm diving like way too deep in NFL offseason stuff here, but
this is like show prep for March. Like this is this is definitely stuff we're going to get to.
I was listening to some draft podcasts earlier today. I'm pretty worked up.
I was listening to some draft podcasts.
What do you know about Harold Fannin Jr.?
A lot. Tight end, Bowling Green. Really good.
Freak.
Had a good game
Mutant person.
Penn State. I was listening to some draft Listen, I have said on this program one of my favorite golf podcasts, which is so like I'm in no position to judge. I just think it's a really funny. Thing.
It admittedly
really funny thing to say out loud. Anyhow, lots of football to get to on today's show. Going to get to some college hoops as well. KU's got a big one on Saturday against Texas Tech at Allen Fieldhouse. We'll get a chance to see if the last 2 games have signified some actual improvement for Bill Self-Sponge or if it's just a bit of a death rattle at the end of what has been a disappointing season so far. We'll get into that later on the show. Plus all the other things you've come to know and love from a Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk, our sports headlines. A February championship showdown in What Is Wrong With You. I think this is one of the all-time great monthly championships in What Is Wrong With You history.
It's a strong one.
Fart Me Through the Phone versus Meth Cannon. It is a heavyweight bout. That's coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll do Change My Mind. We'll do On Second Thought. We will read your texts to the program. Shoot us a text, 785-272-9429, 785-272-9429. You can also interact with us if you are watching the show on YouTube today. Again, our channel is 580 Sports Talk. There's a live chat feature on the web browser or the mobile app, and you can join us with some thoughts and interact with us and interact with your fellow listeners throughout the show. A hearty good afternoon to Mark H. and Jayhawker and everybody else who is in or will check in with us on the YouTube later on today. And if you're watching on Facebook, you can leave comments too. Again, our Facebook page is WIBW News. The 2 big offseason dominoes have fallen for the Chiefs. Travis Kelce's coming back. That's known. I'm excited to hear him on New Heights when it returns from its hiatus. I'm presuming next week. And he's going to explain what went into his thought process. Like, I want to hear a little bit more from Travis Kelce on this. It's wonderful that he texted Pat McAfee with a bunch of exclamation points. I think that's great. But I want to hear directly from the horse's mouth and not from the horse's ass, Pat McAfee. Low blow. I'll go to my corner. I'll take the 1-point deduction. Anyhow.
There's no such thing as a low blow with Pat McAfee.
That is really true. Wear some sleeves, doofus. Anyhow, Travis Kelce is back. And Trey Smith is back as well. Chiefs have franchise tagged him with the intent of signing him to a long-term contract extension. This is not a L'Jarius Sneed scenario where the tag was procedural and everybody knew that it was precluding a trade, and it in fact did. So those were the two big question marks. I think the biggest question marks of the Chiefs offseason, and I think that was probably the case even before the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs' performance in it may have rewritten some of the list of priorities that the Chiefs have moving forward. They had to know if 87 was coming back and if 65 was coming back. The answer on Trey Smith is maybe a different one than they anticipated, but different in a good way. And now they know that they will get Travis Kelce back for one more year. So what's next? I think that is a really fascinating question to ask for the Chiefs and Brett Veach right now. Remember, March 10th is when the legal tampering period opens. So if the Chiefs want to do anything with their current list of outgoing free agents, guys who have not yet hit the open market, Nick Bolton, Justin Reed, Hollywood Brown, anybody else of that ilk, they've got until March 10th to negotiate before the legal tampering period opens. So what is the next big priority? Is it keeping one or multiple of those, I don't want to say big name because that doesn't feel quite right, but those high priority free agents? Is it maybe starting to work on a contract extension for Trent McDuffie, who is the next Chief who's going to get a big bag? Like Nick Bolton, Justin Reed, whether it's the Chiefs who pay them or not, they'll get good contracts, but like the bag is going to McDuffie. That's the next Chiefs player who's going to get capital P paid. Yeah. Is that the next thing that the Chiefs have lined up to try and accomplish? What do they need to make sure that they have squared away before that legal tampering period ends?
So I heard a great point. I'm trying to remember what podcast this was on, but it was about the lessons from the Super Bowl, essentially. And that the football public and most of football media too, focus on the wrong things during Super Bowls, because things are magnified in the Super Bowl, right? It's the last game. The whole world is watching it. All of America is watching it. And you see something that stands out, and that was the special sauce. That was the thing. And what has that reaction been to this Super Bowl? Win with 4. Your defensive line is better than their offensive line. You get home. That's how you win a Super Bowl. Wow. I mean, that's revolutionary. You can get a 4-man pass rush to work. That never works otherwise in football. Oh, wait, that's actually been the case in football pretty much the entire time the forward pass has been used. So especially in the modern game, like 2004 onward. So, okay, maybe that's not the lesson. Maybe the Eagles are just better at it than everybody. Same with just, you got to win in the trenches. Well, the Eagles are just better on both sides of the ball in the trenches. Yeah, if you're really good there, you're going to have some success winning. I heard, and again, I wish I could credit this, but it's a great idea. The thing that the Eagles do that's actually unique from everyone, and the thing that actually has set them apart, they pay dudes immediately. When somebody is up for a contract, they do not wait. Remember when Devontae Smith got paid? What is that, 2 off seasons ago now? And it was, wait, oh, really? Already? You're paying him, and you're paying him $60 million over 3 years? You sure about that? Number 2 wideout money, exploding, because wide receiver money in general is exploding all across the NFL. So the Eagles ended up getting a 3-year extension done with either the first or second best number 2 receiver in the league. It's either him or T. Higgins. And they paid him up front, said, hey, extra with the last year of your rookie deal, and then this 3-year extension, we got you for 4 years at a pretty reasonable cost for how good of a player he is. After that, that sets the market so that everybody else, T. Higgins and everybody else, has to get a contract following that. A bunch of their defensive players, they sign them as soon as they are eligible to get extensions. If I'm the Chiefs, I am doing that with Trent McDuffie. I am locking him down because I want to go back to the 2022 draft and see who else is going to be up for an extension this year at cornerback. But I would say that should be one of the priorities. Maybe it doesn't have to be done like tomorrow, but that needs to be a priority. Yes. Okay. Perfect example. This is the best example of the point I'm trying to make here. There were 4 cornerbacks taken in the first round of the draft in 2022. Kyrie Elam is not going to get a second contract from the Bills.
He may not get
we can ignore him.
He may not get a second contract from an NFL team.
Two other guys both were picked in the top 5.
Oh, Stingley and Sauce.
Derek Stingley and Sauce Gardner. I think you could make a very, it might not be a perfect argument. I think you can make a reasonable argument. Those 3 cornerbacks are right now, this second, the 3 best corners in the entire NFL. I think that is a very reasonable argument you can make. You don't want to wait for Derek Stingley to get paid. You do not want to wait for Sauce Gardner to get paid. You want to be the first, because if, Stingley gets paid first and he gets $25 million a year, guess what? The price for McDuffie suddenly is $25.5 million a year. If 2 guys get paid and the second one gets 26 a year, guess what? McDuffie's got to get paid 27. That's how this works. Those 3 guys are all elite, all pro. I think all 3 have been an all pro in the first 3 years of their career. That's nuts for 3 guys who were picked in 1 round of a draft. Pay him right away. For more than anything else, you're going to pay him regardless at some point. So why not give yourselves a quote unquote discount right off the rip? I think that should be one of the first things that gets done. Just get it out of the way. He's going to be with you for a long time. That's a cornerstone of this team. That's a core championship player. Get him paid. Get him done with. Because I think he is also more important than a Nick Bolton. And I think they'll pay Nick Bolton, but I'm more willing to take that one down to the wire than I am willing to waste extra money that I could have saved by just getting a deal done earlier.
There's but so much that the market for Bolton is going to get bid up, right?
Yes, great. Exactly what I'm thinking. I'm willing to push that and say, we'll get to you, because you're right. That's not going to hit like cap breaking numbers. Number 1 elite lockdown corner, that will get to like 18% of the cap kind of numbers.
The Chiefs waited until the end of camp last year to do a Creed Humphrey extension. And they were able to do a market-setting extension for Creed Humphrey. But market-setting extensions for centers and market-setting extensions for cornerbacks are quite different. And so I do think that it would benefit the Chiefs to be first out of the gate with a deal for their guy at corner. Because look, if I were a general manager and I had my choice of those 3 guys, like irrespective of scheme, I think there are some general managers who might value McDuffie number 1. I think the consensus might still be based on what their draft stock was, because Sauce has been an all-pro, and Stingley was just an all-pro, and McDuffie was an all-pro last year. So they're all all-pro guys. They've done nothing to convince anyone that they weren't worth first-round picks.
Yep.
So I could certainly see the conventional wisdom being, well, the guys who were taken in the top 5 are going to get more money than the guy who was taken in the 20s in the draft. But you want to give yourself an opportunity, if you're Brett Veach, if you're the Chiefs, to be able to have that cost certainty with that player at that important position. Because the other thing that's important to consider here is that cornerbacks are all of a sudden being valued much more highly by organizations, and they're getting paid more, and they're getting longer-term deals as a result. It's, in a way, a response to the flood of big wide receiver deals that we saw, and Tyreek Hill was kind of the first one who got his from the Dolphins. So with the pendulum swinging back toward the defensive side of the ball in that particular exchange, the wide receiver versus defensive back exchange, defensive backs are expensive now, and they're only going to get more expensive. So there are a lot of benefits to being the first adopter of a contract extension for your number 1 corner.
Something interesting, just as an add-on to that too, and not that Sauce is totally unwilling to tackle, and I think Stingley's actually a pretty good tackler as well. You don't find guys who can cover like McDuffie who are also willing to tackle like Trent McDuffie. There is probably a handful of GMs out there, I bet, who would put McDuffie, like if you made every one of those cornerbacks a free agent right now, I'm certain a good number of both defensive coordinators and GMs would put McDuffie at the top of the list, because he might not take the ball away a ton, 2 career interceptions both this season. but dudes don't tackle like him on the outside.
And he's the only one of those guys to have excelled in the slot and on the outside. Remember, he was an all-pro in the slot.
Yep.
So I do. I think that's a compelling argument to do the McDuffie extension first. Of their own guys that are free agents, that you want to make sure, hey, we want something done before the legal tampering period. We don't want to get to a point where we're bidding against anybody else. It's really important to us to have something signed, sealed, delivered before March 10th. Is there anybody on this list of Chiefs free agents that you would say it's a high priority to do that for? I would have said Bolton, but I'm rethinking it in the sense that, because I still think the Chiefs are going to bring him back.
Yeah.
But you make a good point that the market's not going to explode for Nick Bolton. Like, what'd Patrick Queen get? 3 years, 41?
Let me pull that up. I think you're spot on with that, actually.
Like,
Patrick Queen, yeah, spot on. 3 years, $41 million.
Like, that's the ceiling I would think for a Bolton extension.
I think, first of all, that was such a stupid deal. Patrick Queen's not good. Like, he was so propped up by Roquan Smith. I would assume just like time value of football money, Bolton would get a little bit like 3 for 42.5, or like there's a tax for just being later in time. Right. But yeah, I mean, that's the framework of the deal. The guarantee, by the way, actually, I wonder if that would be the big difference. If the total money is almost the same, but Bolton got more guaranteed. Patrick Queen only got 13.8 guaranteed on a $41 million deal, which is not much. Also, it's kind of the Steelers. Like, yeah, you might not actually be good, but we need a linebacker. Right. I would not be surprised if Bolton got a little bit more guaranteed, because even with the limitations I think he has in his game, I think there is also a baseline that he has never fallen below. Like, Patrick Queen has had moments in his career so far that, like, yo, dude, you're bad. Like, that you are not a good player. And then he had a great year in Baltimore, and this year he was fine. He wasn't great. He didn't live up to the contract, but he was fine. Nick Bolton has always, at the very least, been, like, steady. He's never been worse than, I don't know, give me any fill-in-the-blank tackling machine linebacker who's, like, not all that good, but at least it's like, okay, Jordan Brooks as an example, AJ Hawk when he was playing, like those guys. He's never been worse than a player like that, with some moments that are higher. I think that's a better player than Patrick Queen. And you've heard me talk about Nick Bolton, so now you know what I think about Patrick Queen. But I think he'd get a little bit more than that. But again, with the explosion of the cap, you can fit that in pretty reasonably. And I don't think anyone around the league is like, yo, that dude completes the defense.
Yes. Like, that's a transformative player in the middle of our defense.
That's the player that you love. And I guess this kind of works out for the Chiefs. If he's like your fourth best defensive player, you've probably got a pretty good roster. And for the Chiefs, he's probably been like third best, fourth last year when L'Jarius Sneed was having an all-pro caliber season. Like, that's fine. Like, that's a fine place for him to be. And I think that's a fine amount of money to bring him back for.
What about free agents on other teams? Bill Barnwell has an idea, and Matt Verderam, our good buddy, has a second. We'll talk about that next and talk to Matt Derrick later this hour. We're just getting started on this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. One player we can confirm will not be a Kansas City Chief. Brendan's free agent crush at left tackle, Alaric Jackson. They are done with the deal, the Rams and Jackson, a 3-year contract between the Rams and their starting left tackle, $57 million, $35 million guaranteed. It's a little higher than what Spotrac predicted by about $9 million of average of total value.
Man,
So
3 years,
19
million a year. I still would have done it, honestly.
Yeah.
I would have done it.
Yeah, be interesting to see how that affects the money that guys like Cam Robinson and Ronnie Stanley may get in free agency. But, yeah, that's one less option for the Chiefs to address left tackle. What about other free agents? Bill Barnwell of ESPN.com had a best free agent fit for each team around the league. And for the Chiefs, this is something we brought up earlier this week. He suggested former Texans and Bills and Vikings wide receiver Stephon Diggs. With a number of free agent wide receivers ready to depart, the Chiefs need a veteran who can play on the outside opposite Xavier Worthy after Rashee Rice returns to the slot. Diggs should be recovered for the start of the 2025 season after suffering a torn ACL. He was on pace for another 1,000-yard season. That's what Bill Barnwell thinks. Our NFL insider, Matt Derrick, appearing on That Football Show on the KC Sports Network with Tucker Franklin, also thinks this would be a good idea. We have the audio. Let's go ahead and hear what Matt Derrick has to say about Stephon Diggs as a Chiefs fit.
Diggs is a guy you look at and say, again, like you point out, 1-year deal in all likelihood. He's 31, but he was on pace for over 1,000 yards with Houston. So I'm a big add-a-receiver guy. If they want to try to add a Stephon Diggs on a 1-year deal, again, fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. You're not tying up future cap, and if he's great, then awesome. And if he's not, it's a 1-year deal. I think sometimes you got to take those shots.
My whole thing is, if you're going to take a shot with a 1-year deal for a wide receiver, why not just Hollywood Brown? He knows your offense. Uh-huh. I don't think he's going to cost any more than Stephon Diggs would. In fact, he might cost less because Diggs only played 8 games. Hollywood Brown only played 3. In the regular season, only played 3. So I can't imagine there are a bunch of people lining up for a multi-year deal for Hollywood Brown. Maybe there are. Maybe that's something the Chiefs aren't. Maybe that's someplace the Chiefs aren't willing to go with Hollywood Brown. There's somebody else out there who says, "Hey, those 3 regular season games, those were sick. Here's 2 years. Here's 3 years." I don't see that being the case. But if it is, then yes, I do think the Chiefs need to add. It can't just be Worthy and Rice and like Nico Remigio at wide receiver next year. They're going to need to add somebody. The player, divorced of anything else, is a fine player, and I think maybe still, you never know after an ACL, but may still have some juice left because he was playing well before the injury. The problem that you brought up was just how good a teammate is he? And how good a teammate is he going to be? Because he's never particularly been a great teammate. And I just don't see the Chiefs bringing in a guy who might not be a culture fit. That would be the kind of thing that if they did it, you would know that, like, Mahomes signed off on it. That would be one of those, like, Mahomes and Diggs hung out and played golf and crushed Coors Lights for a weekend together, and Mahomes says he likes him, so he's here.
I just don't really think the player makes sense. I don't. Because you're right. I mean, if Mahomes really wants him that badly and, 1-year deal, probably fairly affordable, sure, I can understand that. But 31 years old, post-torn ACL, about to be on his 3rd team in 3 years, not an especially well-liked teammate. Buffalo was more than happy to trade him to Houston, and they didn't even get that great of a return back. I don't know. I don't think I would do it with Stephon Diggs. I'd rather give it a shot with Hollywood Brown, just bringing him back. I mean, it's a bad wide receiver group in free agency anyway. There's no one really all that great out there. I've got the list in front of me right now. No Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, that's an obvious no. T. Higgins is going to go back to Cincinnati probably for 1 year. I would pass. I'm good.
Let's see what Matt Derrick maybe has to say about that. Our Chiefs insider joins us after this timeout here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com is our Chiefs insider. He joins us every Friday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, the two big offseason dominoes fell pretty quick yesterday. Trey Smith coming back, and Travis Kelce says he'll be back for the 13th season of his career. Let's start with Trey Smith. How did we get from a week ago, the Chiefs are not franchise tagging Trey Smith, to yesterday, the Chiefs are franchise tagging Trey Smith?
The short answer is the NFL continues to find money. The Chiefs were, the Chiefs, they're spending a lot of money as it is. So they're always up against the cap. That's a continual conversation. And flat out, the easy story is the Chiefs were preparing for a salary cap of about $270 million this year. When the NFL said, okay, the projection now looks like it's going to be between 277, 281, Chiefs were like, okay, that puts Trey Smith back into conversation. And I don't think there's any doubt. Yesterday, NFL comes out and says salary cap's going to be 279. Chiefs were like, okay, this is doable now. I mean, and there's still the gamesmanship. I mean, there's still the actual act of putting the franchise tag on Trey Smith, but I certainly get the sense that if this deal is probably going to get done sooner than later as far as a long-term extension, now that there's a little bit more money than the Chiefs have anticipated.
Do you think it gets done before the legal tampering period, March 10th? Not that it matters for Trey Smith because he'll be on the tag, but do you think that that's something that the Chiefs get done before free agency really begins in earnest?
I mean, they would love to get that done because he's the first domino as far as getting a lot of other things done. Now, I mean, the Chiefs can free up some cap space, and they're going to have to, because even as of right now, they won't technically have the cap space to fit the franchise tag. So they're going to have to do some things like, whether it's convert Patrick Mahomes' roster bonus into a signing bonus or some other cap shenanigans that they can angle. But there's a few different moves that they have to just free up the space to automatically fit in Trey Smith. But then, there's not a whole lot else that they can do until Trey Smith gets done. I mean, can you if you want to try and get Nick Bolton extended, can you do that? That's going to be a little bit more difficult. And that's why, last time around, with Chiefs last year, I think Chris Jones got done on a Friday night before the legal tampering period opens. You would love as the Chiefs, you'd love to be able to get Trey Smith done just because then it frees you up to get a few other things addressed and maybe discuss before, players can start getting offers from other teams.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com is our guest, our Chiefs insider, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Travis Kelce says he's coming back for his 13th season. You kind of always felt like it was more likely than not he was going to come back. If you had to sit here and predict right now, he played in 84% of the Chiefs' offensive snaps last season, and that was the most he played in as far as a share of the snaps since 2020. Do you think he has a similar workload in him for one potentially final season? Or do you think the Chiefs maybe do ratchet him back a little bit closer to that 70% snap count range?
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's even, taking out the fact that he didn't even play in the season finale.
Yeah.
So, in games in which I think he played, I think his snap count was closer, up over 90%. So, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, that's too heavy of a workload. And the Chiefs are paying Noah Gray now to handle a bigger workload. So I think they're going to have to find some ways. And and they've got the receivers now that maybe they don't have to. And obviously getting Rashee Rice healthy again's a part of that. And that the Chiefs, and which I think they need to be investing in receiver every single season. I mean, if they're able to invest in receiver in the draft again this year and find some more help from Mahomes or even in free agency, I mean, they don't have to lean on using multiple tight end sets as much, which, once again, it allows you time to get Travis Kelce off the field. I think fewer snaps makes him more productive. And better production, I mean, is he going to, better last year's numbers from a reception standpoint? Probably not. 97 catches is a lot, and if he's going to play fewer snaps, that's going to get harder. But I think you would love to see that if they manage his workload differently, maybe even his practice load differently, that his other metrics will go up, because obviously, for Kelce last year, just his average target, his reception rates, all of these things, everything was a lot lower across the board other than receptions. But I think he would just love to be able to get it so that his yards after the catch, all those things for which Travis Kelce is known for, that they're better if he's got a different workload next year.
So what name is next on the shopping list, so to speak, for Brett Veach? If Travis Kelce's decision and Trey Smith were the two biggest check boxes on the offseason list of things to get done on the to-do list for the Chiefs front office, what name or position do you think is next? What will be the next thing that the Chiefs prioritize?
I mean, the next one to finalize for sure is the Nick Bolton situation. I mean, the Chiefs would love to be able to keep him. I think they might really need to be able to get a deal done with Nick Bolton before the tampering window opens, because all it takes is one team to come along and say, yeah, we're gonna pay him like a high end, middle linebacker. They're going to pay him like Fred Warner, and he's going to be making 17, 18 million per season. I think that's out of the Chiefs' price range, but if they could get something done less than that and just offer him the guarantee and offer him the role that he has now, which obviously is the quarterback of that defense, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, for Steve Spagnuolo, I think that Nick Bolton is the key piece to be able to keep this offseason. He's going to be pricey, and maybe they won't get it done, but that once you had Trey Smith and Travis Kelce ironed out, I don't think there's any doubt that's the next piece. And today we got some more information about being able to use that 5th-year franchise tag on guys like Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis for the 2026 season. You got to make that decision by May. Getting a deal done with McDuffie is certainly on that list, but you do have a little bit more time with him. You don't have to have that done right now, but that's certainly also on the Chiefs' off-season plans, is to try and get Trent McDuffie extended.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. I'm so glad you brought up McDuffie, because we were talking about him at the top of the show today, and where McDuffie's case is intriguing is he's one of 3 all-pro cornerbacks that are going to be eligible for that rookie extension starting this year, with Derek Stingley and Sauce Gardner from Houston and the Jets, respectively, also being eligible for that extension. Do you think that would accelerate the Chiefs' timeline in the sense that they don't want to give their extension reacting to whatever kind of money that Stingley and Gardner get, that there might be a benefit for the Chiefs to act first on their all-pro corner?
Yeah, I mean, it usually does seem like that the teams that act first get the better deal. Certainly, if you're the Chiefs, you'll probably say, hey, yeah, Trent McDuffie needs to be paid at that level, but they don't want them to necessarily have to pay him as much as a Sauce Gardner. Getting him done first might enable that. You establish the level, and then maybe it's Sauce that's able to come along and say, okay, well, hey, I've got X accomplishments more than McDuffie, so pay me more. Hey, he's got the 2 All-Pros. That helps. Obviously doesn't do a whole lot for the 5th-year option formula, since those only recognize Pro Bowls. And so his 5th-year option is going to be about $7 million difference than it could have been if he'd been named to 2 Pro Bowls instead of 2 All-Pro teams. That's just the way that the cookie crumbles. But
So
and that's a little bit. Yeah, it is strange, and I because I think that Sauce, I think he's going to qualify for I think he's going to get the 5th-year option that's about $7 million higher than what McDuffie is getting. So the 5th-year options are a factor only in the sense that they kind of establish at least the floor for negotiations. So that's another thing that's kind of working against Trent McDuffie. But I always firmly believe, and you kind of brought it up there, that when there's a group of players all the same age that are hitting, their opportunity to hit free agency at the same time, usually the earlier you get your deal done, the better it is for the team.
Couple more questions for Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. A name that's come up throughout the week as a potential free agent fit for the Chiefs at wide receiver, and they certainly are going to need to add to their wide receiver room in some form or fashion this offseason, whether that's by keeping Hollywood Brown or looking towards the free agent market, is Stephon Diggs, the former Viking and Bill and Texan, who's coming off of the ACL. Obviously doesn't have a great reputation as a teammate, but was productive right up until he got hurt last year. Do you think that's a potential fit on the free agent market if the Chiefs are looking to do a 1-year deal with a veteran at wide receiver?
You mentioned a lot of red flags there, and multiple teams is one. He has blown his way out of some good situations, and that's, I think, obviously always a concern. The injury is a concern. In fact, it's going to be his age 32 season is a concern. I would think that even just the chemistry alone factor might scare the Chiefs off because they've got a couple of really young receivers. I think they like the chemistry that they have now, and as far as the veteran leadership, if they wanted to bring back a veteran, to kind of lead that room, I think they would be much happier with trying to keep a DeAndre Hopkins or a Juju Smith-Schuster because those guys have been, great leaders in that group, and DeAndre's probably the one that fits the best. I think even Hollywood you'd like to be able to keep if you're the Chiefs. So I think those would all be options they would look at before they looked at Stephon Diggs. So I'm not as sold that the Chiefs are going to be in the market. Maybe they'll surprise us and jump in, but I think they would prefer to look other directions because they feel like their top two receivers going forward are going to be Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. And if you're not better than them, I don't think there's a place for you in Kansas City.
Matt, what do you think would be the earliest that the Chiefs would use a draft pick on a wide receiver this year? It's not the kind of elite wide receiver talent in the draft that we've seen in recent years. There are some day two or mid-round guys that I do like. Matthew Golden from Texas is a player I really like. There's a couple later on that I'm interested in. I think if your guy from Missouri, Luther Burden, was around at 31, the Chiefs should at least kick the tires on him, even though he's not a huge body. How early do you think the Chiefs might go wide receiver in this year's draft if they plan to take one?
Yeah, it's a good question because once again, it can come down to what's available. If the best player on your board is as a receiver at 31 and you've got other needs, defensive line, left tackle, but if your grades on those players are all third round grades, they're significantly worse than what your receiver is, I think you still have to take the best player. So, could they take one at 31? There's a rare scenario where I think they could. I certainly wouldn't be surprised. Just because you've mentioned a couple of names there, and I like actually, I'll throw in Isaiah Bond from Texas too. Even though the Chiefs have Xavier Worthy, I think Texas has a slew of receivers that I've been really impressed with. So, hey, could those be second, third, fourth round guys and the Chiefs jump in? Yeah, I think they could because again, offensively, what has Brett Veach and what did he reiterate again this week that? Yeah, they want to protect Mahomes, and left tackle is something that they have to shore up. But, the other thing is that he wants to always make sure that Patrick Mahomes has weapons. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did dip back into the receiver pool, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did it early if there are guys available.
Matt Derrick covers the Kansas City Chiefs, ChiefsDigest.com. He's our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk, joining us every Friday at this time. Matt, always a pleasure. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk next week.
Sounds great. Appreciate it, Dan. Take care, everybody.
That is Matt Derrick. We'll step aside for a break, come back, wrap up this 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. Real quick, changed my mind here on 580 Sports Talk based upon some Cactus League action. They're in the top of the 7th. Diamondbacks leading the Royals today 4-1. But Chris Bubich, 2 scoreless innings, scattered 2 hits. Neither were hit hard. Struck out 4, did not walk a batter. Changed my mind. Chris Bubich has a broad lead for the 5th starter role.
I don't think I would go broad because it's not even March. I think it's just too early to say that. Now, if he does this again 2 more times in 2 outings, then sure, I think I'd be more inclined to say it. I still think, even with the injuries, I would assume Marsh has the lead because he's been in that role before, most recently. That's my assumption. And Bubich was so good out of the bullpen, but yeah. I'm not opposed to Bubich winning the job. He's got good enough stuff to handle a 5th starter role.
Great day for my Chris Bubich agenda. Also, my MJ Melendez agenda. Hit his first home run of the spring for the Royals' only run.
You and Fulton are more than welcome to throw your whole weight behind Melendez. I cannot do it again.
We'll talk some more NFL. What is wrong with you? February championship coming up next hour. 580 Sports Talk. Well, let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on the air on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And on video, we're moving. It's a moving picture. It's in color. There are graphics and everything. Catch us on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on our Facebook page, WIBW News, to watch the video stream. So glad that you are spending some of your Friday afternoon with us today. We want to hear from you in the YouTube chat. Also on our text line, 785-272-9429. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski hanging out with you. Spencer Dupuis will be in a little bit. I'm leaving at the bottom of this hour to get out to some high school hoops. We got the regular season finale of the 580 Preps Game of the Week tonight. Shawnee Heights and Seaman. Awesome rivalry. One of my favorites in the city. And 4 really good teams.
Streets are saying that Dan's leaving because he hates us. I am not saying that. That's what the streets are saying.
The streets, like the English rapper from the mid-2000s of some renown?
Like Huckleberry Road or whatever those streets are over in Southwest Topeka. Turnberry Boulevard. Nottingham Forest Avenue or whatever the hell they are.
There are a lot of streets over there. It's the neighborhood between the Dillons and the Hy-Vee on 29th.
Yeah, and Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, they all sound like English Premier League clubs.
100-acre wood ass neighborhood.
Every single one of the streets, like you drive down 29th from Urish to Wanamaker, and you run into Staffordshire, Gainsborough, Tutbury Town.
They had a great game in the FA Cup a few years ago.
I think that's the club Ed Sheeran owns, Tutbury Town.
So out of place.
It's very funny. Scathelock. Yeah, they're stuck in football league too, man. They have some battles with Scunthorpe.
Meanwhile, in terms of funny street names, while I was driving down to Pittsburgh on Wednesday for Washburn basketball, I guess just the entire duration of Johnson County, and it's a long county. It's very tall.
Yes.
Like it gets to, I think, 399th Road. Like y'all could have started a different naming convention at some point. Didn't have to originate everything at the very northern tip of Johnson County. Like you could have gone to New York Avenue at some point. You don't just have to keep counting.
Done the presidents or founding fathers.
Well, and then it's confusing because then I think it's in Miami County. They also do numbers, but they start in a different place. So at one point you pass the exit for 399th Road, and later you run into 300. Like, wait, I thought I passed 297 back there. How is 300 after 399?
You got 399 north and then 300 south.
What happened?
Yeah.
I was very confused. I got my ETA very wrong on my way home when I passed that. Like, oh, shoot, I'm close. No, wrong, not close.
You've got another trip down that way tomorrow with Washburn basketball, going to Joplin, Missouri.
Indeed.
You take 69 to not like you take American Express. That's not the way I'm asking the question.
You give and take normally.
That's typically how it works. Yes.
All right, that should have been saved for after dark.
Yeah.
Sorry, safe harbor laws.
580 Sports Talk after dark. Wow, it's every bit of Friday apparently. Do you take the same route to Pittsburgh and then cut over, or do you go into Missouri and take?
I did last year. I took the route through Pittsburgh, and then you go on like some weird little back road. It's not highway or anything. It's just like a little neighborhood side road, and then you cross over the state line.
Yeah. You cut
it's just like all of a sudden, oh, yeah, you're in Missouri.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think that one actually takes you like right to the university.
It does. Like, it leads you right up to it, which would be nice. However, doing the old MapQuest, Google Maps, but the other day, it's more easy to say MapQuest. It's actually about 15 minutes shorter to just drive all the way to I-49 and just go due south on the Missouri side. So I'm probably just going to do that.
Man, I remember.
Don't come follow me, but that's probably my projected route.
I'm old enough to have had to go and look for sites for games I was covering and print out the directions on MapQuest.
My dad, well into the GPS on your phone era, like when I was in high school, and he still travels quite a bit, but he used to travel like every week. Like Monday, he would leave. He'd be home Thursday night or Friday. And on Sundays, he would say, hey, Brendan, here is where the airport is and the rental car place. Here's my hotel and the plant I'm going to. Will you get the MapQuest directions for me? Yeah, sure. I will do that. And I'd print them out every time. And then he would tell me, I really only need the map. I was like, okay, that's good. I see where I get my good sense of direction from. Also, Dad, do you know you can do this on your phone?
One time I printed out directions. I was doing I worked in North Platte, Nebraska for 4 years. If you know the geography of Nebraska, it's pretty far out west. Not quite the Panhandle, but pretty far out west. Like due north of like Oberlin. Like that's how far out we're talking here. How far west North Platte is relative to like Lincoln, Omaha. I had a football game out in Omaha, and I had booked a hotel because I was going to cover the Nebraska football game the next day.
Oh, sure.
And I had printed out instructions to the hotel, and I got to the hotel. They did not have a reservation for me on file because it was the wrong hotel. And I don't quite recall how I got to the right hotel, but that was life on the road for 24, 25-year-old Dan out there in Nebraska.
I will say, I was talking to Matt Derrick before we went on the air for our interview last segment. Shout out to Matt for joining us today, by the way. And he said, I'm just enjoying this weather before it becomes winter again tomorrow. I had not checked the weather past today. And I thought, wait, what do you mean winter tomorrow? I have to drive 3 hours to Joplin. What do you mean winter? He goes, it's just going to be like under 50. I thought, phew. Yeah. I thought you meant snow again, Matt.
No,
scaring me.
You've dealt with enough of that in your on your travels. What time are the games tomorrow on our sister station, Country 106.9?
Our first game, our men's game, is slated for a 1:40 start because it's the TV game of the week in the MIAA. So the men are going first. I'll be on the air just before 1:30 for pregame. And then the women's game is scheduled for 3:30. That game will tip off closer to 4. I will just tell you that now. Yeah. That will tip off closer to 4 o'clock.
Catch all the action with Brendan tomorrow as Washburn wraps up the regular season at Missouri Southern. Once again, that's on our sister station, your exclusive home for the Ichabods, Country 106.9.
One other quick note for you. So the MIAA, if you're not familiar, and you should be because Washburn is awesome. The MIAA, they time their games in men's action. The women do quarters just like Division I does. But in Division I, we know the timeouts, the TV timeouts in men's action are at the 16, 12, 8, and 4 mark. The first dead ball after each of those marks in each half. In the MIAA, the conference does it at 5-minute intervals.
Right.
A 1 minute, 15-second break, under 15, under 10, under 5. Most conferences do. Some conferences like the GLVC, what Rockhurst is in, they do the 4-minute intervals. It's jarring enough going from MIAA timing to like watching a KU game. God, they're stopping so often. The TV games do the D1 timing. They do the 4-minute timeouts. Oh my God. Like, can we play? Why are we still taking another timeout? Let's just play the damn game.
No, it really
it's so frustrating.
Yeah, it feels a lot different when you're used to the other format for sure. Even the exhibition games they would play against KU or K-State.
A slog.
Yeah, it really does. It really does feel that way. You don't really understand it until you've played without it. The 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Give it a little bit more flow for sure. Royals still trailing the Diamondbacks 4-1, top of the 8th in Cactus League play today. Royals rolled out one guy who projects to be an opening day regular, Michael Massey. The Diamondbacks rolled out like their A team today, so they're the home team. You see this in the spring. The home teams will play their best guys, and the teams that are traveling will sometimes leave their best guys at home. So the Royals offensively don't have an A lineup out there, and they've struggled against the A pitchers for Arizona. They got a guy on the mound right now. Justin Martinez is pitching right now for Arizona. He was their closer towards the end of last year. It is February 28th, and some poor youngster named Daniel Vasquez saw 2 pitches that registered over 103 miles per hour.
Sheesh.
And then struck out on a 90-mile-an-hour split. What I am telling you is get Justin Martinez in your fantasy league, but also I am telling you buyer beware, because arms that are throwing 103 in February sometimes don't make it to July. All I'm saying.
Yeah, that's fair. Those first 3 months will be awesome, though.
Yeah, no kidding. No, I saw that out of the corner of my eye. I said, I'm sorry.
Come again?
He threw another one, 102 the next at bat. That is absurd. Anyhow, coming up this hour on 580 Sports Talk, we got our February championship on What Is Wrong With You. We are going to crown a champion for the month of February. We are also going to talk a little college basketball. KU has won 2 in a row going into a home game with Texas Tech. Can they protect their home floor, or has what we've seen the last 2 times out from the Jayhawks been a bit of a mirage? That is coming up as well. But I've been wanting to talk about this all week. We keep getting it preempted. So I keep moving it from day to day in the rundown because I think it's an interesting question. So the Chiefs have dominated the AFC West, and they're in position to do that again in 2025. But last year was the best year the AFC West has had collectively in some time, with both the Chargers and the Broncos making the playoffs. The Chargers reaching the postseason in year 1 under Jim Harbaugh, and the Broncos reaching the postseason in year 1 with their rookie first-round quarterback, Bo Nix. They've got relative stability where you want to be stable. The Raiders are brand new. New coach, Pete Carroll. New GM, John Spytek. New shadow owner and general manager, Tom Brady. Which of the 3 AFC West teams, I want to think of the best way to ask this question, the most interesting way to ask this question. Which of these 3 AFC West teams is most capable of making a step forward next year? Now, obviously, a step forward for the Chargers and Broncos looks like challenging the Chiefs for division supremacy, where a step forward for the Raiders is just not be embarrassing. So steps forward are different. It's easier for the Raiders maybe to accomplish their step forward than it is for the Chargers and the Broncos to smash through the Chiefs-colored glass ceiling that's been in the AFC West for the last decade. But which of these teams do you think has the best chance to really improve itself and improve its lot in the AFC this offseason?
I am going to lean with Denver. I think the Chargers have more spots in total on their roster than Denver in which they could improve this season. Now, they're probably going to cut Joey Bosa. He's probably going to be a free agent. Sounds like Khalil Mack's going to be a free agent as well. They're going to have to make some big changes at defensive end. Khalil Mack was pretty good this past season, honestly. Bosa just has so many injury problems. So they're going to have to make some adjustments there. I think their offensive line can still get better. I think they've got other spots on defense that can certainly get better. And I think they have a really good defensive coordinator in Jesse Minter. That'll certainly help them continue to be afloat on the defensive side of the ball. I think Herbert, again, I know, admittedly, I think Herbert is a better quarterback than a lot of you on the other side of this microphone and radio speaker think he is, which is fine. I have no problem with that. He did lay a big, fat, smelly egg in the postseason. No doubt about that. That hurt his stock with me as well. I think he's already quite good. I don't know how much more there is for Justin Herbert to tap into, like just in terms of skill and execution and ability. I'm not saying that Bo Nix has some Mahomesian ceiling. I'm not saying that he can make a leap from year 1 to year 2 in which he looks like a completely different quarterback. Like, Josh Allen from year 2 to year 3 went from wild horse gunslinger crazy boy to, oh my God, whoa, this dude is awesome. I don't think we're going to see that from Bo Nix, and no one should ever make a comparison to Josh Allen. That is such an anomaly that no one should ever make that comparison. That's why Anthony Richardson is going to get Chris Ballard fired. Anyway, I do think, in theory, there is still a much higher ceiling for Bo Nix than what we saw this year. Now, the caveat to that is, how likely is it he reaches that ceiling? I don't necessarily think it's that likely. I think he can be a bit better. He started to push the ball down the field a little bit more at the end of last year. Still not much. Still not as much as I would like to see, just as a fan of the quarterback position. But I think there is more that their quarterback theoretically can get to, which is why I think their ceiling is higher. Also, some of the things that they need, there's good depth for it in this draft. Like another edge rusher. This is a good class of defensive linemen. Maybe not a Myles Garrett at the very top of the class, but there's a lot of good starting caliber defensive end, outside linebacker talent in this draft. They need a running back. They need a legit 3-down, reliable runner. I think they can find one this year because this is the best running back draft in I don't even know how long.
A lot of mocks have them going with Ashton Genty. A lot of suggestions that they should even trade up to do it.
I think Ashton Jeanty would be awesome for them. But here's the problem with taking Jeanty, that because they have the 18th?
I think
something
18th
like that
is right.
I was going to say 12th. That's the Cowboys, who I know are also a potential target for Ashton Jeanty. The problem with Denver going up to get him or taking him there, you can find a starting caliber running back later in this draft, I think. I think, obviously, Devin Neal is my guy, but I think you could even take Devin Neal and you at least have a first 2 downs running back, or he can catch the ball pretty well, too. You're going to find Devin Neal in the 4th round or DJ Giddens in the 4th round this year. And I think both of those guys can contribute as rookies right away. I would wait a little bit probably if I'm Denver and pass on Jeanty, although he'd be awesome in that offense. So I think it's a good year for their draft needs and what they need to add. And I think you can still go higher, closer to the ceiling with Nix than you can with Herbert. I thought the Raiders would be a hilarious answer to this if they had gotten Stafford. Because like I said at the top of the show, I don't know who he's throwing to other than Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
And their running game sucks. I mean, it's awful.
As a whole, they have the roster that is the furthest away from contention, and there's no immediate fix at quarterback.
No. They do have a good line. Their offensive line is good. It's not quite as good as Denver's. I think it's better than the Chargers. And that's a good building block. And Pete Carroll, I'm sure, will be happy to finally have an offensive line for the first time since, he was going to Super Bowls in Seattle?
Yeah.
So there's that. Defense, I don't think, is going to be as good this year. Who did they hire as their DC? I don't remember.
The Raiders?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Was it Patrick Graham?
Did they bring Graham back? You're right. You're right about that. Okay, Patrick Graham's really good. He is a good defensive coordinator. So maybe they won't have a huge drop-off there. But it's a weird roster. This has to be an eat your vegetables year for the Raiders, which has been 20 years now. But it's got to be because they have so many things they need to fix.
Here's the thing about that, though. That's what everybody thought year one was going to be for the Seahawks under Pete Carroll. And they went 7-9, and that was good enough to win their division. They won a playoff game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's only but so lousy you're going to be with Pete Carroll as your coach. And you don't hire Pete Carroll, who is in his 70s, and expect that, we're going to do a slow rebuild here. No, I think they're going to...
Especially since they only got a 3-year contract.
So they're really interesting to me in the sense that I do think they're going to take a big swing at a quarterback. I don't know if that's going to be via trade or free agency. I don't think it's going to be Rodgers. I wouldn't be surprised if that's where Cousins ended up. I wouldn't be surprised if Russell Wilson ended up there. We know that the Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson thing, the divorce was not without its acrimony, but those guys won football games together.
Probably wouldn't hurt to have some familiarity. So isn't Bevel the OC? No, he didn't get the job.
No, it's not Bevel.
Who got that job? Chip
Kelly. Yeah. That's so funny.
I think Russ could work with Chip.
Young Russ, absolutely.
Yeah.
Older, less mobile Russ, I don't know.
Honestly, given the coordinator, Cousins makes a lot of sense. He stunk. He was so bad.
Yeah. And couldn't move. And
Rodgers is an interesting one. I think who he is now would work in terms of, because he can't really move either because of the Achilles, which he's 41 years old and that tore his Achilles. I get it.
Also, he and Pete Carroll are similarly conspiracy pilled in a way that.
They certainly share beliefs about 9/11.
Yes.
Without question. The problem is, can you imagine the egos in a room with Chip Kelly and Aaron Rodgers?
No.
That's break the pool stick, one of you gets the sharp end kind of stuff there. That would not work, I don't think. Yeah, who are they going to play?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the big thing for the Raiders, because I think that Carroll is a culture builder, and he is going to make that team better than they will appear on paper if they've got a real answer at quarterback. And I just don't know who that answer is. I truly do not know if there is an answer that gets them to that point where I think they could win 7-8 games and be that much of a pest.
Shedeur?
No.
You think he slides past 3? The first 3 picks are Titans, Browns, Giants. I saw some scuttlebutt today that the Titans are not so they don't know that it has to be Cam Ward. I think it will be. I think they'll go quarterback because you have to have one. But I saw that they are infatuated enough with Hunter, they would consider that pick.
My hot take is I think it's very possible that Shedeur Sanders sits in that green room for a very long time.
I think so. I would not take Shedeur Sanders in the top 20 picks, and I might not take I just don't. Yeah. I don't see it. I see Sanders. I don't see starting quarterback. But
the arm is not great, and he takes a lot of sacks. I think
they're candy. Oh my god!
Yeah, I think teams are going to talk themselves out of Shador rather than talking themselves into him.
Can we really only get one first-round quarterback?
I think it's possible.
And I don't really love Ward either.
Swerve, it's Tyler Shuck.
Someone's going to get fired. Someone is going to take Shuck and get fired.
Yeah, 100%.
What's happening here? Who did he hire as his agent?
I don't know, man. He's 26 years old. He didn't even play minor league baseball like Brandon Whedon did. It makes no sense.
Oh, man, did you see those 4 games at Louisville? Yeah, what happened when he had his 8th arm injury? What happened when he was under any pressure? I don't get it. And you have heard me say this a million times, Dan. If I'm wrong about any of these guys, I'm happy about it because I'm not rooting against anyone unless you're a criminal or something. I'm not rooting against anyone in the draft. I hope they all have very fruitful careers. I do not understand why 26-year-old Tyler Shuck is getting attention. Whoa, dark horse. Dark horse for what? Early entry to AARP? I don't get it. I do not understand. Don't force the quarterback thing, especially if you're not Cleveland or the Giants. We're going to talk about the Giants later on in headlines, by the way, today, because they came up now that Aaron Rodgers will not be going to the Rams. Multiple outlets have said, hey, watch the Giants as a possibility. I can't, to be old and to own a team has got to be really hard because you want to win before you die, but trying to do that never works.
No.
Never, ever, ever works.
With 8 outstanding workout facilities and 5 gorgeous golf courses, Great Life Topeka delivers for the fitness fanatic and the golf fanatic. You want to be a member because the membership benefits are outstanding. Go to greatlifetopeka.com to learn more. Our February What Is Wrong With You Championship coming up next on 580 Sports Talk.
USA.com, or CVS.
WIBW, Topeka.
What the hell? What the hell?
What is wrong with you on 580 Sports Talk is sponsored by State Farm agent Ryan Mowinkle. Give him a call, 785-273-1572. That's 273-1572. See what Mowinkle Insurance and Financial Services can do for you. It is the February championship on What is Wrong with You. Two stories competing against each other for the monthly title. First up, fart me through the phone. 25-year-old Rhiannon Evans got in some trouble in North Wales in Britain for sending repeated videos of herself farting to her boyfriend's ex-partner. In what is termed Britain's first ever cyber farting case, Evans bombarded her romantic rival with several inappropriate videos of herself passing wind that were, quote, indecent or grossly offensive, including all throughout Boxing Day and New Year's Day. Man, you probably got a day off work and ruined, totally ruined by this woman sending videos of herself, letting it rip, placing the camera on her bottom and passing the gas. Evans was handed a 12-month community order, 15 rehabilitation sessions, 60 days alcohol abstinence monitoring, and a 2-year restraining order.
Other than that, it went really well, though. Smart plan.
Yeah, very, very bright idea to send fart videos to your boyfriend's ex.
Put it up against her butt.
The other corner, meth cannon.
Oh,
we go to the prison in Grant Parish, Louisiana. Some yahoos, two youngsters from the state of Colorado, thought they would try and smuggle drugs and cigarettes into a prison. Tale as old as time. What is not a tale as old as time was their method of conveyance for their $112,000 worth of tobacco and $89,500 worth of meth. They were going to shoot it over the prison walls and into the yard via air cannon. I got to be honest with you. I can picture in the 1980s, I bet like at NASCAR races, they did shoot cigarettes into the crowd, like packs of Winstons into the crowd with a t-shirt cannon. I feel like they were definitely doing that at NASCAR races.
Yeah, I could see it.
Like back when the drivers didn't wear helmets. And yeah, like absolutely. 100%. Anyway, that's a lot of cigarettes. Like by volume, $89,500 worth of meth. Like that's not like, it's a lot, but it's not like a huge thing. Like it couldn't fill this room. $112,000 worth of cigarettes is voluminous. I don't know how they thought they were going to load up the cannon enough times and shoot it over the prison walls without detection. And as it turned out, they didn't, and they were arrested and charged with attempting to introduce contraband into a penal institution and attempting to distribute meth. Also, one of the two was in the country illegally.
Okay. I can't do that.
So, we got a fart story. We got a meth story. Some of the pillars of what is wrong with you.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going with the meth cannon here. And I just, again, the method of conveyance. Like we have, was it the drone one year? They were going to use a drone to
airdrop. Yeah, they were running the Marshall Plan over a prison.
Yeah, they were going to airdrop drugs from a drone. And that was a monthly champion a few years back. Using a t-shirt gun is so funny. We're gonna load it up like it's the bottom of the 5th inning at a minor league baseball game. We're gonna just let it rip with the meth and the cigs, and nobody will suspect a thing. We can do this from long range. Meth cannon's my pick.
Yeah, that one's gonna be my pick too. I do love fart me through the phone, but there's no way the meth cannon works.
No,
that's the thing. There is no possible set of circumstances.
Those cigarettes, like the pack of cigarettes, would probably like explode.
Yeah, in which case, like your method of conveyance, like you said, the fact that you're trying to like blast anything into a jail, it ain't gonna work.
What if you wrap them in a t-shirt?
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Because everybody loves a free t-shirt. Like if they had wrapped them in t-shirts and started shooting t-shirts into the yard, the guards would have been down there like, ooh, t-shirt. Everybody wants a free t-shirt.
Yeah, me.
Everybody wants. It cost Maud Flanders her life on The Simpsons.
Yeah, it's got to be Meth Cannon.
Meth Cannon,
It's
our
gotta
champion of February on What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by Ryan Mo Winkle, State Farm agent, our good buddy. Give him a ring, 785-273-1572. Brendan's got you the rest of the way. I'm off to Shawnee Heights for high school basketball. 580 Sports Talk continues after this.
.439 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski here with you. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Dan Lucero is on his way to the birdcage at Shawnee Heights High School for tonight's regular season finale of the 580 Preps high school basketball doubleheader game of the week. One of the best rivalries in the United Kansas Conference, one of the best rivalries in Shawnee County and all of Northeast Kansas. Shawnee Heights hosting Seaman tonight, what should be a great doubleheader. Girls and boys games. Sometimes we get doubleheaders that are, oh man, this girls game is going to be great, or oh, this boys game will be special. We don't always get both games lining up to be awesome. That's what we've got tonight as Seaman visits Shawnee Heights out in Tecumseh. Our coverage will begin around 5:30. You never know exactly when the JV games will end, but right around 5:30, we'll send it out to Dan Lucero and to the coach, Larry Latimer, for coverage of the regular season finale on the 580 Preps high school basketball game of the week doubleheader. We'll get to some college hoops here in just a matter of moments. KU and K-State both in action this weekend. Probably goes without saying. Bigger game for KU than it is for K-State this weekend, but we'll get to that here in a few moments. Couple other notes first. One from the NFL Scouting Combine going on right now. Defensive backs are working out today, and I was telling Dan this during the commercial break a few minutes ago. I'd love to give you a couple names of guys that you might be familiar with who are making themselves some money today. The first one is Marcus Siegel, the defensive back from Kansas State. He just ran his 40-yard dash in 4.37 seconds. That is a blazing fast time for him. I don't really know about Siegel's pro prospect. I think he'd be, if anything, a late day 3 pick if he ends up getting selected. Haven't seen his name a lot, but I haven't gone too far headfirst into the 7-round mocks at this point. But a 4.37 is good. That's speed you can't teach. That's something that NFL teams are going to really like, especially in a year in which the speed's not great. This is not a great draft overall. We were talking earlier when we were looking at the AFC West about the positions where there are strengths. Defensive line, both interior and on the edge. It's a good year for tight ends, Ty Warren and Harold Fannin, among others. Running back, it's awesome. There are great running backs in this class. Overall, though, not a lot of top-end speed. Nobody who's like, oh, my God, these 10 guys are going to go and all be Pro Bowlers, all pros, Hall of Famers. Not any of that in this draft. So if you've got something that stands out like 4.37 speed, like Marcus Siegel showed, awesome. His own teammate beat him. Jacob Parrish, the Olathe East, Olathe North. I know he's an Olathe guy. At the combine today, during his drills, his measurements, had a 4.36 40-yard dash, 4th best of anyone who worked out today. His vertical jump, 37.5 inches, 3rd best of anyone working out today. And his broad jump, 10 feet, 9 inches, 3rd best of anyone. If you don't know exactly, like, hey, what does this mean? What does it mean to have a 10-foot, 9-inch broad jump? Just know, for comparison's sake, of all the guys who competed today, all dozens and dozens of defensive backs, he had the 3rd best one. That's good. You have the broad jump explosion, the vertical jump, and the 40-yard dash, all top 5, all top 4 in your position group. Pretty good. So I would not be surprised if Jacob Parrish made himself a little money. It's not a great cornerback class either. I've seen Parrish as high as a 2nd-round pick in some places. I don't know that I would take Jacob Parrish in the 2nd round. Just like I don't know that I would take Siegel personally at all at any point in the draft, maybe late on day 3, but it doesn't hurt to have some explosion. No doubt about that. All right, we'll get to KU and K-State here momentarily, but I just came across this on social media, on Blue Sky, and I need to share it with you. If you're watching the show on YouTube, the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about in just a second. If not, if you're listening, thank you for doing so on 580 AM, 104.9 FM. I will describe this to you. But the Big 12, which is under Commissioner Brett Yormark, has done a lot of good things and is trying to stay relevant and cool and all of that. I understand it. They continue as a conference to want to push the envelope at big events. Remember, we've seen the WWE wrestlers who go to the Big 12 championship game and the Undertaker handing a title belt to the championship winning team. We've seen the Bay the Nate promo and extra merchandise, the very popular streetwear brand at the Big 12 championship game. DJ Diesel, Shaquille O'Neal showing up and doing DJ sets in Kansas City for the Big 12 tournament. All this stuff. The Big 12 eats in Kansas City at the tournament, all that. Well, this year, the Big 12 is going to use a custom court for the Big 12 tournament at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. And again, I'm going to put this on the YouTube and Facebook feed right now so you can see it if you're watching there. The court is gray with some sort of chevron-y, paisley repeating pattern on it. It looks way too close to the floor at Schollmeyer Arena at TCU, having this weird pattern on the floor. Again, it's gray with some speckles of white. The lane is black on both sides, the paint. The logo at center court is a white 12 on a black background. It also says championship underneath. And there are 3 different Phillips 66 logos. On the sideline, it says in all caps, "What's next is decided now." What the hell does that mean? And then the brand that helped the Big 12 design this court, they're called Undefeated. Their logo is going to be on the side of the floor as well. The Big 12's official write-up about this says, today the Big 12 Conference unveiled its first ever 12 court, a 12 branded court on which the 2025 Phillips 66 Big 12 men's and women's championships will be played on. Additionally, the conference has partnered with global sportswear brand and retailer Undefeated on the 12-court design. The court's apron features the brand's iconic 5-strike logo. How iconic can it be? I have never heard of it before. And I understand. I am old now. I was doing an interview with a Washburn player the other day and discovered that I am old because I was talking about music. I love to talk about music when I interview the players to see what they're listening to, how they think about their teammates, music tastes, all of that. And one of the players for the Washburn women said the name of an artist I had never heard of before. And I thought, okay, I'm old. I am washed. 30 years old. I am washed. It is over for me. I am officially old. Okay, that's fine. So maybe I'm just out of touch, but I don't think you can call their logo iconic if I've never heard of it. I don't think that is a fair assessment. So I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention. It looks like crap. It looks gross. Play on a court that looks like a basketball court. We don't need to play in like a custom skin in NBA 2K. It looks like garbage. So there you go. Big 12, bad idea. I like a lot of what Brett Yormark has done. A lot of the corporate sponsorships have at least been fun, if not a little bit goofy. This stinks. It's ugly and gross and bad. Brett Yormark, get rid of it. They're not going to. They probably spent millions of dollars to go put this together, but it sucks. I'm just telling you that right now. If you want to go check out the YouTube stream and take a look at it yourself, you can do so at any point, either right now or later on in the day. Also, you just go to the Big 12 Sports website. You can find it, but it's bad. I hate to now gripe and moan like an old guy too. Oh, back in my day, we played on brown wood courts, and that's how basketball should be played. Well, I'm right about that. It's true. Vance in the YouTube feed called it a monochrome monstrosity. He is correct. It looks like garbage. We don't need to do this. Just play on a basketball court. Nobody is asking for unique courts. No. Don't do that. The in-season tournament in the NBA, the Emirates Cup or whatever it is, they do the custom courts for the tournament games. They look awful. Stop with the custom courts. Just paint it, even if they want to go with black, fine. Just leave the regular wood out there. We don't need to make it look like some sort of weird street ball thing. Just play basketball on a normal court. All right, I'm done. I'm getting off my old man soapbox at this point. We do have college hoops this weekend to get to. KU versus Texas Tech on Saturday. Massive game, obviously, for both the Jayhawks and for the Red Raiders. A difference of opinions, depending on where you look in regard to who should be favored in this game. So right now, over at KenPom, KU has fallen all the way to 20th in the KenPom ratings, which is insane, frankly, knowing what we know about KU. Last year, for what it's worth, after the tournament had concluded, KU was all the way down as far as 27th. This year, KU sits at 20th, fifth best defense in the country, 60th in offense. Not great. Not what you want if you're the Kansas Jayhawks. So KU sits there. Texas Tech is 7th in the KenPom. On a neutral court, KenPom's numbers have Texas Tech favored by roughly 3.5 points. Roughly. That's on a neutral court. So you want to put that in Lawrence, you're adding about 1.5. KenPom's got Texas Tech about a 2-point favorite. I don't have the numbers up in front of me, his actual pick for the game, but got Texas Tech about a 2-point favorite over KU. That sounds about right, given where these teams are this year. My guy, Boydetology, the advanced metric from Evan Boyd, Bracketology of Stats, Inc., he has Texas Tech on the road at Allen Fieldhouse as a 4-point favorite, according to his numbers. Bart Torvik over at T-Rank, he ranks KU, or has KU picked as a 1.1 point favorite at home at Allen Fieldhouse. And the sports books, we'll go over to our friends at Prairie Band up north in Mayetta. That sports book has KU favored by 2.5 this weekend against Texas Tech. I don't know about that one, to be completely honest with you. I think the game being at Allen Fieldhouse is obviously helpful. I know it's helpful to have the game at Allen Fieldhouse. And KU, the vibes are good. After we started #new season, 2-0. KU was undefeated in the new season. 2 games ago, we started a brand new college basketball season. KU is 2-0. Go look at Bart Torvik's numbers, the T-Rank numbers. KU number 2 in the nation since the new season began. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. But on a serious note, I don't know that you can trust this KU team against a group that has been as good as Tech. And I don't know that I even believe Tech is as good as their record and as the metrics indicate. I mean, they've had a very good year. There's no denying that. JT Toppin has been awesome. He's averaging 17 points, 9 rebounds a game. In fact, over those numbers. Darian Williams is a good player. Chance McMillan's had a good season as well. He plays a ton too, 34 minutes a game for him at his guard spot. They've got good players. I think they're well coached. Grant McCasland right now would be my second pick for Big 12 Coach of the Year. Bill Self has him first. He said this week I would put Grant McCasland penciled in as my Big 12 Coach of the Year. I'm still going with Kelvin Sampson, to be honest with you, because the record he has amassed, 31-4 with this Houston team, despite not having crazy elite recruiting talent. But as CJ Moore told us yesterday, it's on the way. Don't worry about that. I would still give the award to Sampson, but McCasland's been great. I would not complain if he won Big 12 Coach of the Year this year. I'm probably going to pick Texas Tech. I know that's sacrilege to say about a game at Allen Fieldhouse, but I just have a hard time trusting this KU team. And yes, have they been better since the start of #new season? Yes, KU has absolutely been better since that absolutely disastrous trip to the Beehive State against Utah and BYU. That being said, Oklahoma State sucks and Colorado sucks. I don't know how much we can take away from those two games for KU. Winning on the road at Colorado at altitude, a team that was obviously game for that matchup. Yes, that's nice. Blowing out Oklahoma State at home. Yes, that's nice. Neither of those teams is in the same area code right now as Texas Tech. I'll pick the Red Raiders. I think they win within a possession, 2 or 3 points, probably right around that Ken Pom number. I want KU to win, obviously. I'm just not sure I can buy in all the way. And this is the first of 3 games to end the regular season for KU that are absolutely brutal. Absolute mess. From our guy Triple G over on YouTube, in the YouTube comments, says, bet it all on the Red Raiders. This KU team is soft. SAWFT. What does that spell? Soft. I'm picking Texas Tech. I'm going to say that. I agree with Triple G on that. I'm hopeful that the last 2 games and getting to play at home and the intense words from Bill Self help KU build a little bit of momentum. I don't know how confident I am. K-State plays Colorado this weekend. I hate to be flippant, K-State fans. K-State is clearly not very good. Colorado is even worse. This game means nothing. K-State's not getting to the tournament without winning the Big 12 tournament. I hate that it's come to this point, but unfortunately, it's come to this point. Let's get to one more time. Matt will come on back with this week's On Second Thought here on 580 Sports Talk. thought from the YouTube comments from our guy Triple G, who says he thinks that the Ken Pom defense rating for KU, bit of a mirage. Not feeling good about this weekend. He's on Texas Tech. Some worries about Hunter Dickinson keeping it up as well. Got to be honest. He was awesome Monday. I've got those same fears. No on second thought for me. I was perfect this week. Final hours coming up after the news.
Trust Ground Source, the geothermal professionals in Kansas. Call them at their Holton office and get comfortable with significant savings.
Ground Source Water Furnace. Starter from the ground up. Hi there, this is Evan Woodbury from Woodbury Farms. Our 14th annual production sale will be held Wednesday evening, March 19th at 6 p.m. at Overbrook Livestock and Fishing Company in Overbrook, Kansas. We'll be selling 40 bulls of both yearling and two-year-old Angus and Herefords, 50 open yearling heifers, and 10 commercial first calf heifer pairs also sell. Featured sires include Rawhide, Craftsman, Bedford, Patriarch, Stellar, and Atlantis. Don't miss the Woodbury Farms production sale March 19th at Overbrook Livestock. For more information and complete catalog at WoodburyFarmsKansas.com. Bid online at liveauction.tv.
Your updated forecast on 580 WIBW. A red flag warning continues. Mainly sunny this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 70. Winds out of the northwest 10 to 15 miles an hour. Lows dip down to about 32. Tonight, partly cloudy skies. A lot of sunshine tomorrow. Daytime highs approaching 48. I'm meteorologist Trey in the Capital Federal Weather Center. Right now, it's 68 degrees.
The voice of Kansas, online at 580WIBW.com.
Hey now, final hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way on this feel-good Friday afternoon. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I'm Brendan Dworzinski, cruising to the finale of this one. Just myself and you. You're a part of the show as well. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you want to be, well, I already said you're part of the show, but if you want your opinions heard on the show, drop us a line on the text line, 785-272-9429, or you can find us on YouTube. Head to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk, subscribe when you see our channel. Then you can watch the video version of the show as well. Hang out in the comments section. Let us know your thoughts on anything we are talking about today. Dan Lucero is on his way, probably already there, at the Birdcage at Shawnee Heights High School for our final regular season 580 Preps high school basketball game of the week doubleheader. Alongside the coach, Larry Latimer. Seaman versus Shawnee Heights tonight, one of the best rivalries in all of Northeast Kansas, in Topeka and in the United Kansas Conference. Our coverage will begin around 5:30, roughly, and we will send you over to Dan and the coach. In fact, JV is progressing quite a bit already, so we will send you over there as soon as we are ready for tonight's 580 Preps high school basketball game of the week. I'm going to be completely honest with you because I believe in transparency with the listener. I just had to run from my office into the studio right before the hour began. I am completely out of breath. I am trying very hard to push through in this segment, but I'm going to do it for you. As hard as it is, my lungs are on fire right now, but I'm going to do it, and I'm doing it for you. So I hope you remember that. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube, you should do that as a favor to me because I'm pushing through in this final 20 minutes of sports talk for you today. Now that I've guilted you into that, let's get to today's 580 Sports Talk headlines, which I will try to get to in between panting, as again, I was not prepared to have to run. I lost track of time. It happens sometimes. All right, today's 580 Sports Talk headlines for you. We go directly to the NFL. Busy day around the NFL today. We start with major quarterback news from ESPN.com. Matthew Stafford agrees to a restructured deal to stay with the Los Angeles Rams. In the writing of Sarah Barshop from ESPN, their Rams beat writer, the Rams and Matt Stafford have agreed to a restructured contract that keeps the QB in Los Angeles, the team announced on Friday. The adjusted contract came after the Rams gave Stafford's agent, Jimmy Sexton, permission to speak to other teams about his value in the quarterback market. And after discussions with the Raiders and Giants about contract parameters, Stafford and the Rams were able to come to an agreement on a reworked contract. With Stafford remaining with the Rams, the Giants are now investigating all veteran quarterback options. Again, this is from ESPN, including Aaron Rodgers. The Raiders, meanwhile, are going to look into options, including Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and Sam Darnold. Okay, we're going to get to all of that in a moment. Number one, the Rams. This is a good team. They're going to look a little bit different going forward. No Cooper Kupp in all likelihood. The Rams have also given him permission to seek a trade. In fact, they told him, hey, go seek out a trade because we don't really want to bring you back at that price point, which is tough for a guy who's given a lot to the Rams, was a Triple Crown winner for the Rams, Super Bowl champion back in 2021. All things that are especially important to note, but he will not be there. Their offensive line going to stay pretty consistent. We did find out earlier today from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, as well as other sources, that it looks like it is going to be 3 years, $57 million with $35 million guaranteed that the Rams are giving their left tackle, Alaric Jackson, to keep him in LA and keep him off of the free agent market. I hate that because I really wanted Alaric Jackson to be the next left tackle of the Kansas City Chiefs. I thought he was a great fit. I thought the cost was going to be affordable. What we had originally seen was something in the neighborhood of 3 years, $48 million. Didn't know about the guarantee. That's what Spotrac had put together as their projected value. Listen, man, a starting left tackle in the NFL who's good. I don't think Alaric Jackson's great, but he's good. For $19 million a year, yeah, I'd pay that without question. I think Alaric Jackson's better than anybody the Chiefs put out there this year. Better than Kingsley, better than Wanye, better than Joe Thuney. I don't know why I call those guys by their first names. I hate it when people do that. I hear it on podcasts all the time. Tom Brady did it during the Super Bowl nonstop. Well, Patrick did this. Patrick did this. How about Jalen did this? Call them by their last names, like a broadcaster, you weird Skeletor-looking freak. Okay, that's mean. Anyway, my apologies for calling them by their first names. But Joe Thuney kicking out from guard to tackle. Alaric Jackson better than any of those guys. Unfortunately, the Chiefs are not going to have a chance to sign him. He's going back to LA. And again, I think that's a very reasonable contract for an above average starting left tackle in the NFL in 2025. So the Rams get their left tackle back. They get their quarterback back. Ian Rappaport of NFL Network has also said that, hey, look, it's going to be a while until we know what the contract looks like. It'll probably be close to the start of the new league year when free agency begins, but this is going to get done. It'll be pen to paper. The Rams have already announced it's going to happen. So Matt Stafford will be returning to LA. That's one of the best teams in the NFC going forward. The run game is good. Their offensive line probably could get better, but it's good. Their defense on the front side is really good with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, the rookie of the year on the defensive side of the ball. Kobe Turner's a really good player up front. Their defensive line's awesome. Defensive backfield, not so great. But that is one of the best teams, I think, in the NFC going forward. And it helps that they certainly have Matthew Stafford coming back, even if I personally am not a huge Matthew Stafford guy. In that report from ESPN about Matt Stafford coming back, we had this note, and I will repeat. The Giants are investigating all veteran quarterback options, including Aaron Rodgers, per Adam Schefter. The Raiders are now looking into options like Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and Sam Darnold. Ew, gross, yuck. Russell Wilson's probably their best bet. I mean, he's better than Justin Fields. I like Sam Darnold. Maybe Darnold works with Chip Kelly. I don't know. At this point, who the hell knows? And Kevin O'Connell did a great job with Darnold this year. Maybe Chip Kelly, who has said, and this is such a funny quote, asked who the best quarterback for his system is, Chip Kelly said Rajon Rondo. That's a real quote from Chip, because he just wants a quarterback who doesn't need to make plays. He's going to do the right thing, and he's going to get the ball where it needs to go on time. Just be a distributor. I don't need a huge playmaker. Maybe that works for Sam Darnold, and Kelly can kind of protect him from himself. I would rather probably go with Sam Darnold. I would certainly rather go with Sam Darnold than Justin Fields. Him or Russell Wilson, half one way, 6 does in the other. It just comes down to flavor. It probably more than anything really comes down to whether or not Pete Carroll wants to work with Russell Wilson again. The more interesting note with this is Aaron Rodgers to the Giants being a possible consideration. I'm not reporting that's done, but it is possible that the Giants go after Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to give Joe Shane, the general manager of the Giants, a free piece of advice. This is a free consultation. You only get one, New York Giants, so listen closely. Don't do that. I don't even think Aaron Rodgers is the worst quarterback option. I'd rather have Aaron Rodgers than Justin Fields. I'll tell you that much of the quarterbacks we're talking about. I don't know that I would necessarily take Russell Wilson over Aaron Rodgers either. I think in Pittsburgh, in that offense, I actually kind of think Rodgers makes some sense, especially because they have a good offensive line. If you told me Pittsburgh is going to go sign Aaron Rodgers, I would tell you, 1, please think for the future, but 2, okay, I at least get it a little bit. I don't think this makes sense at all. The best linemen that the Giants have Andrew Thomas is an all-pro caliber player. The problem is he's never on the field because he's injured all the time. The rest of their line, as a group, subpar. They have one really good pass catcher in Malik Neighbors. Not really anything else outside of that. Theo Johnson, their tight end's okay, but not really anything else outside of that. Running back, it's fine. Tyrone Tracy had a nice year, whatever. Their defense is okay, but I think was a little bit overrated this season. I don't think that makes any amount of sense for the Giants, who are clearly just going to attempt to continue to put Band-Aids over bullet holes. It's not going to work. Why are you doing this? It's not going to work if they sign Aaron Rodgers, and I can't imagine he wants to stay in New York, but I'm sure he just wants a paycheck at this point. Brian Dable, you should have just fired him this year. Joe Shane, you should have just fired him this year. I don't understand. Bad teams stay bad, and the New York Giants, despite being one of the oldest and most storied franchises in the NFL, are bad, and until the Maras get their heads out of their backsides, they're going to continue to be bad because they're trying to put a little, even one of those good cloth Band-Aids, those are the one I prefer because they stick the best. You're trying to put that over a gigantic scimitar wound. What are you doing? This isn't going to work. You have 84 holes on your team. Just a terrible decision. Big if, that's where the Giants decide to go for their quarterback. I'd rather they just sign Darnold or Fields and just have it eat your vegetables year. But again, that's it. That's your free consultation, Giants. You don't get another one from me. Got to pay for my services after that. Another note from the NFL here on our 580 Sports Talk headlines. I am not one bit surprised by this. Myles Garrett has said that he is not open to an extension from the Browns. He will not talk to them about that. That again from ESPN and reporter Daniel Oyefusi. Garrett is not open to a contract extension with the Browns, according to a league source, which has been confirmed. The team remains adamant it will not trade the pass rusher, despite the fact that he has given them a trade request. Cleveland.com originally reported that Garrett and his representatives have slammed the door on negotiations. The Browns met with Garrett's representatives at the scouting combine in Indy this week. That is not going to happen. General manager Andrew Berry said he is not intending to trade Garrett. Yeah, we'll see about that. He's 29 years old, 6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, 2 more years left on his deal. He is getting paid handsomely. He doesn't want to play for a garbage team anymore that's run by garbage people with a garbage quarterback. And you might say, Brendan, that's over the top. Go look into the past of Jimmy Haslam, a literal criminal who owns the Cleveland Browns. Not a good guy. Not one bit. And Myles Garrett doesn't want to be a part of that anymore. And I say free him for no more than a 4th-round pick and send him to Northeast Wisconsin. Myles, do you like cheese curds? But on a serious note, if you're not going to trade him, you're just going to end up with a discontented player, and that's not a good thing. And he's going to waste away and wither away for a Cleveland team that's probably going to finish 4th in the AFC North again. Them trading for Deshaun Watson has ruined that franchise beyond where they already were. They were bouncing back. They even had a franchise quarterback. And they threw it all away for the nasty man. V1. V2 is Justin Tucker, of course. But it's just ridiculous. I'm not surprised they don't want to trade Garrett, but they probably should, because that's another team that's got a boatload of holes, and just keeping Myles Garrett is not going to fix them. But as long as they're still paying Deshaun Watson, that's not really going to fix anything either. One other NFL note here for you. If you were a fan of last year's offseason Hard Knocks with the New York Giants, why do they keep coming up? In which Joe Shane was shown to the whole world having essentially a dispute with the Mara family, and then he didn't keep Saquon Barkley, and then Barkley went to the Eagles and won a Super Bowl, all that. Well, no NFL team wants to do it this year, and according to Front Office Sports, offseason Hard Knocks is going to college. They will feature Bill Belichick and UNC football after the debacle that was the Giants this past year. As FOS first reported, Hard Knocks offseason will chronicle North Carolina football this year. A fascinating move as the 72-year-old Belichick, the 8-time Super Bowl champ, 6 as a head coach, lays the groundwork for establishing his program at the college level. It's a surprising choice, as Belichick was famously reticent with the media as the head coach in New England, but came out of his shell last year during a gap year in coaching, in which he weekly was on with Pat McAfee. He was on the Manning Cast. He did Inside the NFL. He did ads and a show for Underdog Fantasy. You could not escape the guy. And now he's Mr. Put the camera in my face. It is very bizarre. It is very strange. This is going to be some of the most intense propaganda we have seen since 1942. Like, this is going to be ridiculous. I still don't think Belichick's going to work at North Carolina, to be completely honest with you. I guess the question is, what is working? I don't think it's going to be better than it was under Mac Brown. And I'm not saying they should have kept Mac Brown. That had clearly run its course. But I'm not necessarily sure this is going to get any better under Bill Belichick. Might be fascinating. It might just be pure propaganda. I've never watched Hard Knocks beyond any clips that make it to social media. So we'll find out, I guess, in front of the whole world on HBO with Bill Belichick and North Carolina football. One other headline for you today from the world of the NBA. Don't normally get to NBA until we get to the postseason because the closest team we have is Oklahoma City. If we had more OKC fans, maybe we would talk about the Thunder more because they're awesome, although they are in the Western Conference and face off regularly against Dan's Denver Nuggets. But the Philadelphia 76ers making headlines today, and their superstar, former Kansas Jayhawk, there's the tie for you, Joel Embiid. The Sixers and Embiid have been consulting with top specialists regarding ongoing issues with his left knee. As was said in a statement from the Sixers themselves. After further evaluation, it has been determined that he is medically unable to play and will miss the remainder of the season to focus on treatment and rehabilitation. So if you have picked up a fandom of the Philadelphia 76ers because Joel Embiid was there and you loved Embiid when he was at KU and he's a good player and he's a great personality and all of that, you will not be seeing him for the next month and 2 weeks or so through the rest of the NBA season. It sucks. I know the MVP he won was kind of shiesty because it probably should have gone to Nikola Jokic or somebody else. And why did Embiid win it? It felt like a participation trophy award. Okay, fine. He's still a good player, if not, maybe not the most pleasant to watch aesthetically. And I love him from his KU days, obviously. It's hard to see him have another season come to an end. But yikes, this has only gotten worse health-wise for Joel Embiid. That does it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Let's get to a quick timeout. We'll come on back, get you a final word, and send you off to high school hoops here on 580 WIBW. Real quick final word here on 580 Sports Talk. Before we send you out to the birdcage, for me, KU, this is your last best chance to show people, hey, we can still make a run in this year's NCAA tournament. Obviously did not meet the preseason expectations of being the number one team in the nation. Texas Tech's a good program. They're coming to Allen Fieldhouse. KU gets a win, even with 2 more tough games on the schedule before we get to the postseason. That sends a message. And I think this is a KU team that, for morale purposes, could really use sending a message against a good team. But hey, they're 2-0 in the hashtag new season. Maybe it'll be 3-0 after tomorrow. We're back with you on Monday for a full show. Don't forget, Dan and the coach have the 580 Preps High School Basketball Game of the Week coming up next. So for Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuis, this is Brendan Dworzynski saying so long from 580 Sports Talk. And our Game of the Week from the Birdcage is coming up next here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW.